Have you ever heard the term one trick pony? My name is Coach Buckner, the Cowboy Coach, and I want to talk to you today about skills. Now, the quote that I just made about the one trick pony is actually a derogatory phrase. And the reason it's a derogatory phrase is because being one dimensional or being able to do only one trick is not in your best interest. And it limits the amount of things that you can do, even if that one particular thing that you do is quite fascinating. So it's like if you ever watched a person juggle five batons and all the batons are on fire. Now, when you first see it, you're watching it in amazement, like, wow. And then the longer you watch it, the less amazed you are. You walk away being a one trick pony or having one skill that you do extremely well. And I'm not saying you can't make a living at it, because some people do make a living off of one skill, but it does limit your effectiveness overall. So I have a quote on a piece of paper that I had on my wall in my office, and I've had it there for probably about 9 or 10 years. And it's by a guy named Robert Heinlein. And Robert Heinlein was a naval officer. After leaving the military, became a science fiction writer. And he had this particular way of writing science fiction, ensuring that the science in his science fiction novels were always accurate. But let me tell you this quote. He said this, and I quote, "A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, and die gallantly. Specialization is for insects." Think about that. That's a lot of things that a person should be able to do. And I think Robert Heinlein is actually accurate with that. I am concerned that most people are one trick ponies. You have to have generalists out there in order to ensure that you have somebody that has some idea what they're doing in any given situation. So, as I look at this list, I can only see three things on there that I have not done. I have not written a sonnet, and I have not set a bone. I haven't died gallantly. I may, but I haven't. But everything else I've pretty much done. But I'm concerned that not even my own sons are well rounded. Now, granted, we have a different society now, and there's less things that they would even have to do. Now, my son's generation is, for lack of a better way of saying it, weaker than my generation. But my generation is weaker than my father's generation. My father's generation was weaker than my grandfather's generation, and so on and so forth. And that is simply because we have so many modern features that stop us from having to engage in certain tasks that we didn't have to do, that we don't have to do anymore. We have machinery that can do that for us on behalf, or either we have machinery that can aid us in doing it. So we still cooperate, but it makes the work a lot easier because we have machinery that cooperate with us. But with that said, it still does not negate the fact that we should have skills. We must develop skills. You must develop skills. And if you are a parent, you must allow your children to develop skills. And those skills will come out of their talents, whatever that is. So also, as I was stating, I did build design a building. It was an 8x10 shed, wooden shed from scratch, purchased the wood, brought it to the house, did everything, put the framing up, paneling on the outside, pitched the roof, shingles, whole 9 yards. Now, I said all that to say because in order for me to do that, I had to have a basic understanding of carpentry, right? Now, I developed that basic understanding of carpentry back in the 80s. I graduated from high school in 1983, and I went to a vocational high school, and that high school was called Bladensburg High School. And so along with the regular subjects, I also had an elective, and my elective was the first quarter I took air conditioning, refrigeration, and heating. The second quarter I took carpentry. The third quarter I took electrical wiring, and the fourth quarter was masonry. So that was my first year in high school, and back then it was 10th, 11th, 12th. So it was from 81 to 83. So the next 2 years I had to pick one of those subjects in which I would continue with, and I continued with air conditioning, refrigeration, and heating. So I graduated in 1983. I have taken 0 courses since then. I've taken no courses in any subject related to air conditioning, refrigerator heating, carpentry, electrical wiring, none of that. However, I've been using it for the last 50 plus years. And I've been using it. I used all those skills the other day in building the shed. And as a matter of fact, I also put a door on the side of my garage to stop us from opening the garage door every day. I put a door on the side of the garage. So I had to cut a hole in my garage, the side wall, put a pre-hung door in there, framed it out, whole 9 yards. My neighbors looked at me like I was crazy, and then they were amazed and wanted me to do theirs, and I'm not doing it. But my point is, at the end of the day, these are skills that I've developed over the years. And I'm saying I am no different from anyone else if you just acquire the skills, if you just retain what you've learned. So there's an old saying that wherever you are, be there. The only way I'm able to continue to do these things that I learned in 1980s and 80 from 81 to 83 is because in 1981 and 83, I was all in on the class. In other words, I was fully engaged in trying to learn that electrical wiring. And I did that. I was fully engaged in learning masonry. I was fully engaged in learning air conditioning, refrigeration, heating. I was not passive, I was active. That allowed me to retain that information. And that information carried with me for the rest of my life up to this day. But that's the same for everyone. If you are fully engaged in whatever situation you're in, you will acquire some skills that you can retain. And skills are just like tools. You don't need them all the time. I had all the tools necessary for me to build my shed. I had a table saw, I had a circular saw, I had a jigsaw, I had a hammer, I had a level, I had a, 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 a T-square. I had everything I needed. I had my carpenter pencil. I had it all in-house. And I hadn't used them in years, but it was in my garage waiting for me to use it. The same thing is true about the skills and stuff that we can develop over time, that everybody can develop. It's because it's like having tools that you can use when a situation arises. However, now we're looking at younger people who have less and less skills. I have less and less than my parents. They have less and less than I have. So we need to engage more and learn more about how to do things the so-called old-fashioned way. I have a neighbor who has a riding lawnmower, and my neighbor loves for me to use his riding lawnmower. I had my own riding lawnmower, and it broke down, and he said, "Man, just borrow mine." So he just loves for me to borrow it. And so when he cuts his grass, he'll say, "Hey, you ready to cut yours? I'll leave it over here." So I cut my grass with his. Then we got a very new neighbor who has two young boys. So he said, "Hey, you want to use my lawnmower?" They said, "No, no, no." But so they make their sons use a push lawnmower for their land. And we've got pretty good pieces of land. But why would they do that? Why don't they just use the riding lawnmower? No, they want to teach their sons a skill. They want to teach their sons how to cut the grass with a lawnmower, push lawnmower. It won't kill them. My dad has a saying, and my dad had a lot of sayings. But this particular one always got to me. He said, "Son, hard work will not kill you, but dodging work will." And I think that is so important. Hard work will not kill you. He said, if hard work would kill you, son, you would have never been alive. And I get that. He said, but dodging work, trying to avoid working, will kill you every time. And I think that's true. I think we are designed by work. I think God designed us humans to engage in labor. The scriptures inform us that Adam was given a job before he was given a wife. So I think that's important. Now, granted, we all don't do the same things, but we all ought to be engaged in production, bringing things to pass. And we bring them to pass by first seeing them in advance, right? In order for me to build my shed, I had no plans per se. I did not. I had no paper plans whatsoever. I visualized what I wanted the shed to look like, and I created that framework in my mind, and I knew how to do it each step of the way. So each step of the way, I had to look at my visualization of what I wanted to do, and I knew the basic structure of how a shed is supposed to be built, and then I just kept doing it. So I began with the end in mind, and that's the same for everybody. You need to begin with the end in mind. So I want us to keep in mind that we need to develop more skills, and we need to allow our younger people to develop more skills. It is not good that every time I see young people with a flat tire, they have the spare in the car, they have the jack in the car, but they have no idea how to change a tire. Something is wrong with that. So let young people experience some things. Let them learn how to manage their lives by allowing them to do those tasks that are not life-threatening, but are just simple tasks. Now, granted, they may not ever do something that I did, like butcher a hog. I get that. But they can learn to do other things that are necessities for their generation. And even if that means, there's certain things that you have to do, for budgets and investments, those are things that this society has to learn. So have them develop the skills, have them acquire the tools of life so that they can become effective and be able to manage their lives. The goal of parenthood, and if you allow me to quickly give you my soapbox of preaching for a second, the goal of parenthood is not to raise children. The goal of parenthood is to raise adults. From the day that child is born, you are not raising a child. You're raising a future adult. And you need to keep that in mind. It's all about where you see them as adulthood. So every aspect of their lives has to be focused on not that they're a child, but they're a future adult. I want to end with this. If you get an opportunity, watch the Paramount series 1883. It is a historical account of the migration to the West in 1883 from the east of early America to the West Coast. And it is fascinating. It is fascinating. There's some critics that say it's not exactly accurate, but I don't care. I'm telling you, you should watch it and learn how people learn how to adapt the struggles of life and how they saw how precious life was, but how life was deadly and how they had to manage the aspects of life. They were tough. They had to be tough. Now, granted, once again, we are not as tough because we don't have to be as tough, but it is not wrong to develop a degree of toughness because who knows, our society may change and we may have to just work harder at getting things done. All the electronics we have right now may very well be obsolete if we have some form of electrical change in our polarization of the earth. We all may be back to doing everything manually. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we need to be able to have children who are resilient, to be able to manage the tough aspects of life, and as they say, keep on ticking. This is Eastman Buckner, the coaching cowboy. I'll see you next time.